I thought the most important thing to me, my health, other than my children, etc., I'm going to hack that.
Tim Greeff, welcome to the show.
I hit my max weight, which is nearly 260 pounds. I'd never seen my abs at that point in 47 years of existence. Once you sort of start to see a six-pack, that's all the motivation you need.
If you were speaking to someone who was in a similar position to yourself, before joining Supra, what would you say to that person?
One of my favorite all-time quotes, the thing that all fools have in common is that they're always about to start.
Supra Human.
Tim Greeff, welcome to the show. I don't know what's more impressive, the transformation that I've seen you accomplish working with arguably the worst coach we have on the team at Supra, or your collection of watches. And you just mentioned that you purchased one yesterday, just because you could. So tell us about that situation, and then we'll dive into the transformation that you've achieved.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time guest. I think I've heard every single episode you guys have done. But yeah, I flew in yesterday, and this week I was supposed to close on purchasing a company, and that fell through. The guys backed out at the 11th hour. So a little retail therapy of my own, I just went and bought a watch instead. So it's nice. It's right next to the hotel, so how could you not? Yeah.
So go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, Tim loves buying watches so much. So my dream watch, Tim actually bought for me as a gift last year, wasn't it? So we was having a conversation just like in a bar, having a drink, as fitness people do. And it was in passing conversation, wasn't it? Because I knew he was into watches. I was like, oh, this is the watch I really want. And then like the next year, he was like, oh, I've got something for you. And it was that exact watch, like every single detail.
It's probably the most emotional I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You.
I said
and the Casio that Tim got you looks great.
I got the Apple Watch on.
If any of you ever accuse me of buying you an Apple Watch or smartwatch, then we're no longer friends. No, but that is actually the most meaningful purchase I've probably ever made in my watch buying history, because the reason I got it for him was, when I started Supra, I'm in my third year now, but I made the Hall of Fame, and that's just kind of how I'm wired, which is why Supra appealed to me. If there is a Hall of Fame to be made, if there is a Subway, eat the most subs in a month club, I'm going to get that too, which is actually probably how I got to where I was in the first place. But, when I hit the Hall of Fame, it was meaningful, and I was trying to figure out something to do because Ryan had been there the entire time and has had a profound impact on my life. And so we were out having cigars one night at one of the elite events, and when he said there was a watch he wanted, I was like, oh, well, there it is. So I just had to ask the right questions, which I knew how to ask, and then went and found one up at auction. I actually got it the next week, and then had to wait 3 months to give it to him.
It was funny because I've been trying to find that exact same watch. It was like the exact bracelet, the fluted bezel, the exact dial. And he was like, I went into the Rolex shop and he was like, oh, well, it's very rare. And I had to give my top three options. So I was like, well, I don't want top three. I know the one I want. And then Tim found it within a week. And obviously he kept it for me all this time.
If you know where to look. And I mean, and you can thank the fact that I hate golf, because after part of my journey in Supra is I had just gotten divorced, and I was, trying to find hobbies and figure stuff out. And I took up golf as some way to fill the extra time, because probably the toughest part of divorce when you have kids is that you don't see your kids all the time. And for people like me, you just end up working more, and that's not healthy, because then you end up drinking more, eating more. It's all just a kind of a vicious cycle. And so I gave golf a year, because I can give anything a year, which is why Supra was easy to kind of commit to for a year. And I just realized I hate golf. I don't get it. I'll watch the Masters, but I don't want to play it. And next on my list was watches, and went and bought my first watch and started watching YouTube videos on it and kind of the mechanics and how kind of every immutable law of physics exists in these things on our hands. It was incredible to me, and I haven't turned back since.
Amazing.
So one thing that I was thinking about as we were heading over to the studio, because I was curious, because obviously I've just been watching the journey. I haven't been a part of it with like you guys. But obviously you're hyper successful in business, and and have been for a long time. But I'm curious what a typical day looked like for you from an exercise and food standpoint before Supra. I know you just said then it's like anything you kind of sign up to or kind of get invested in? You're like, well, what's the top thing? I want that. And so I guess like a 2-part question is like, what did a typical day look like? And at what point was it that you had the realization of like, holy shit, like there's this whole game that I haven't been playing, even though I'm so good at this stuff. But like the game of my physique now is like, holy shit, like I've let that go and I need to, reinvest in that side of it.
Yeah, so great question. And I think to back up a bit, it would be a mistake to assume that I've been successful in business for a long time. When I started the company that I own and run now, it was for the first 4 years, it was just me. And I'll never forget, I took my family within 74 days of bankruptcy, all because of my decisions. And, I think part of what was interesting about my psychology around all of this is I think I'm good at what I do because I've failed a ton. And I'm not afraid to fail. It's all about how you sort of react to those failures and pick yourself up. And once I achieved some success in the business world, and then other things happened in my life. My dad's health started going downhill, divorce, etc. There was one cycle where I was constantly accepting failure, and it just sort of time moved on, and it didn't bother me the way that other failures bothered me. And that was in my health and fitness. And I think part of the reason I let myself slide on that is that I never lacked for the discipline. I got up every morning and worked out. I was doing Orange Theory. I was doing beach body workout stuff. And I was always relatively strong, but I was never fit. Like, never in my life until this program did I have a six-pack, even in my 20s. And so I realized at some point, it was kind of about 7 months, 8 months after the separation, and I was just filling all my extra time with more work. And I only have one God-given ability, which is that I process alcohol incredibly well. So it doesn't matter what I drink, how much I drink, I rarely get drunk, and I never get hungover. And I collected bourbon at the time. And so after I'd get done with work, which was usually not until 9 or 10 at night when I didn't have my kids, I would have a martini, and then I would have one bourbon, and that turned into 6 bourbons. And I'm ingesting, 1,000 empty calories before bed and wondering why, I'm doing Orange Theory. Why is this not working? So when I finally just saw myself in the mirror one day and I was like, look, there's a lot in my life right now I can't control, but I can absolutely control what I choose to put in my mouth and what I do with my time when I wake up. But I realized that in my business, I don't build our website. I don't keep our books. I don't do any of that stuff. I outsource it. But somehow I thought the most important thing to me, my health, other than my children, et cetera, I'm going to hack that. And I think a lot of people think they can because there's a lot of information out there. It's like, I can do it myself, et cetera. And I realized, no, I have the discipline to get it done, but I have no knowledge whatsoever. And I outsource everything else that I could probably figure out how to do, but just don't have the time. And so once I just turned over to Supra, I realized I'm kind of a workout submissive. I just want to be told what to do. Yeah. And you guys are great at that. And it's, that's the great thing about the program is if you commit to it and quite frankly, just submit to the advice and do what you're told, it works.
It's really interesting that you said that because I feel like we will get 2 kinds of business owners come in. The ones that are kind of very, very controlling where it's like the first conversation you have with them, they'll go, I know what works for me. And I'm like, you're 300 pounds. Like you don't know, but it's like an ego trip. And then you have guys like yourself or women like yourself. And they're like, anytime I've kind of been successful, it's because I've sought out people that have done it better than me, hired mentors and things and do what they do. So it's like, why would this not be any different? And there's zero ego. It's like, you're the master of this domain. I'm here to just learn. And I think if you start with that, the results are so much faster than having to kind of break down like this like personal belief system that it's like you don't know better. Like that's why you're not a fitness coach, And it's like, and if you did, then you'd be doing it as a job.
Was Superhuman your first coaching program that you'd ever signed up for, or had you tried other things before?
Earlier in my life, when I was earlier in my career, I was working for a bunch of nonprofits, so I didn't make much money, and I worked a lot of hours, but I wasn't running anything. And of course, I was single, had a bunch of time. I had a personal trainer, and that was probably previously the most fit I'd gotten, but I was doing sort of 2-a-days with him. So I did a boot camp at the gym I went to that was free that he did. And then right after boot camp, I would pay him to like weight train with me. Yeah. And, I was just burning a ton of calories. I was 27 years old. But then after that, I decided, I tried to do different programs, and I had less and less time, and time is the thing that's most valuable to me by far, and that's just the way I'm wired and what I believe to be true. So I tried to do programs at home and set up a home gym, and again, it was never for a lack of want to or the ability to get up early and do the workout, but locking in the nutrition. I never had a nutritionist. I always just sort of looked at meal plans. I did, when I hit my max weight, which is nearly 260 pounds, at kind of the height of the struggles of my startup, I went on keto because I was really unhappy with how I looked. And I did keto for almost 2 years. And I dropped 40 pounds, but it was a soft 220 I was at.
Sure.
And the second I stopped keto, the weight started coming back on, and I got up near 240. And that's when I decided I've got to just break it all down, realize I don't know what I'm doing. And it was that. And I started looking at stuff for other fitness programs. And that's when the algorithms directed Supra my way.
It's because you mentioned your passion for watches and kind of looking at like the breakdown, and it seems like you're very analytical of like how things work and what are the kind of components of it. And I think you coach very similarly, so I think that's probably why it's like a match made in heaven. So talk to me about kind of when you first started working together, like what was like the first thing that you implemented? Because I know you're very kind of like ground up, what's the thing that's going to give us the biggest bang for buck, the simplest thing. Nothing's overcomplicated, but it's just the fundamentals that work great. But then it's also how do you, were you explaining a lot of the why to Tim as well? Because we typically don't operate like, just do it, just trust me. Even if the trust is there, we want to give you the rationale as to why. Yeah. But I'm curious kind of what was the first like 2-3 things that you had Tim do that were like, now it's working and, we're going to get an epic transformation.
The very first thing that we did was just collecting data on what he actually did in a typical day from like the nutrition standpoint. Because I remember our first call, like you were saying you was exercising and things, and we knew the missing piece was actually like the nutrition stuff. But I was like, well, let's find a baseline first. So what we did was just track your food for what you currently do, like a few alcohol beverages in there, And it's like, right, so now we've got this baseline. This is what his body's doing, like reacting to it. Weight's going up, weight's going down. And then slowly add in, okay, let's put a protein intake in there, like a protein target, increase his protein. And all of a sudden then we just started to see his like nutritional choices change and his weight started trending down. And I don't very typically explain the why in too much detail unless obviously Tim asked. So if he was like, oh, why are we doing this? I would explain it. But like in my feedback too, I'm like, right, let's just find a baseline, see how your body's responding, then go from there, And he was like a layered effect, essentially.
And I'm a data-driven person. And we started the week of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So it was tough, but I was ready to go, and we jumped in. And I'm a big believer that, look, the data will and the results will show if something is working. But I also know you have to give everything a bit of time. So even when I saw some ads that were like, get you shredded in 3 months, I knew that wasn't realistic. But I also wasn't looking for a quick fix because those had not worked for me.
Sure.
I was looking for a lifestyle change, which I've achieved now. And once you start to see it work, then it becomes easier and easier to just trust the process. And now if Ryan told me to go jump off a bridge, I'd do it. And on the way down, I would just be thinking about how shredded I'm going to be once I hit the bottom. But everything in this program, it's set to work. And what I think the genius of what you guys are doing, and it's not that much of a secret, is everyone starts at a baseline. And then you cut, the program based on your relationship with the coach, through the data, it self-customizes to what you need.
Yep.
And that's perfect. I don't know of any other thing that gets you there like that.
I tell you, one of the biggest light bulb moments which sticks with me, and I instantly knew that Tim was going to be successful, was obviously you travel quite a lot between like different places. And like eating out frequently, etc. Like controlling nutrition when you're traveling is generally a little bit more difficult than when you're at home. And like we spoke about like accuracies when you're at restaurants and stuff. And he goes, oh, well, I'm just going to hire an apartment in New York so I can control my food. And at that moment, I was like, oh, we've done it.
You're willing to just do what it needs to.
If you were willing to like hire an apartment so you can like make your own food when you travel, I was like, oh, like the success is already there. It's just time now.
Well, and I hit, part of that decision was in 2023, I hit a personal record where I spent over 200 nights in hotels. That level of travel is not something I would recommend. It's not something I ever wanted to do, but I'm the type of person that's what I need to do to get something done.
Yep.
Then that's what I'll do. And I had made a decision that I'm going to start focusing more on my health. I started, Thanksgiving of 2023. And so entering into 2024, I was like, where do I travel the most? I traveled to New York and DC currently, and I lived in DC for 15 years. It's like, let me just get a place in New York, and then at least for 80 of those days, I can control my diet a lot better. Now my skill set is so good when I go out to a restaurant, I know what 100 grams of chicken looks like.
Yeah.
And you guys have perverted me with all the metric system stuff, but the devil's measurements. But I do, like, I know what tuna looks like. I know what 100 grams of chicken looks like. And so even when I'm out, I can do it. And then the tips that Ryan gave me is like, hey, if you're out, there's hidden calories in there. Just put an ounce of olive oil in there,
Got it.
Yeah.
17 grams, and that's what I do. And is it accurate? Who knows? But it's close enough.
Yeah.
And it's way better than what I used to do.
I was just about to say, like, the people still try and be too perfect with everything, where like it's one thing to say, I'm going to hire an apartment so I can control the variables more, but inevitably, like, you're still traveling, you're still having to eat out, whether it's with dinners, dates, clients, whatever it is, that you're going to have those moments where, like, it's not going to be perfect. And we've kind of always said, like, well, good enough is good enough. Like, are you moving in the right direction? Then it's all good. And I think, like, if it isn't broke, don't try and fix it. I will stand by that with anyone's diet. If things are going well and they're like, oh, what more can I do? I'm like, don't touch it. Like, just because I know you're going to do it and you're going to fuck it up. And it's like, you're going to work harder and get less, or like whatever it is. But I guess, like, a question I would have as well is there like any point in your journey, say like in year one, where, and you may have had it from day one, just because of your mindset of like, I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame and have the six pack and everything. But was there like a time where, like, you looked in the mirror and you're like, oh, this is really happening. Like, I'm getting the six pack. It's like, I'm going to be one of the, highest achievers in terms of transformations. Like, was there like a key moment, or was it just so gradual that it just kind of happened?
It's pretty gradual at first, although you see the weight coming off. But also, I thought I was stronger than I was. So when I saw the weight coming off, I was like, yeah, these muscles will show up any second now. And it just went down and down and down. And then you hit that point when everyone asks you if you have cancer. And I was like, wow, I'm not nearly as strong as I thought I was. But once you sort of start to see a six pack, and I'd never seen my abs at that point in 47 years of existence, that's all the motivation you need. And then again, it's all about your personal goals. Like, some people may not want to be that lean, because I remember when I was going for the Hall of Fame, I mean, we cut down really low. And I did the DEXA scan at the elite event last year, and I had an 8.6% body fat. And I wanted to see if I can get below 10%. Yeah. I'm never doing that again. That was miserable. And I have a newfound respect for people who can maintain that sense of leanness, but I don't need that because I don't have a job where I walk around with my shirt off. I mean, I guess I could make it that way, but then we're not.
There's a point of diminishing returns.
100%. Because I love food. And that's what I love about this program. It's not. And that was the biggest shock to me, is that this is not a no anything program. Mm-hmm. You can still drink. You can still have a piece of cake. Like, one thing, my all-time favorite dessert is my mom's Southern cheesecake. I grew up in Texas, and it has, 1,000 pounds of cream cheese per square inch. And it's awesome. And have it every Thanksgiving. And, now I can do it myself. But on those first few Thanksgivings, I just told Ryan, I was like, I want to have some cheesecake on Thanksgiving. And he's like, great, adjust your calories to this every other day of the week. And I was able to have it, and it was fine.
When you understand the principles.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, the first year is so important, because obviously Tim now has built the skills to do that. So, like, he has the flexibility on the back end. He's like, oh, if I want cheesecake, I'll just pull my calories back in the beginning of the day, then I can have my cheesecake at night.
Yeah. You have to, I think, like, the structure and kind of, like, I guess, rigidness, it has to precede the flexibility. 100%. And if you like with someone like Ryan, I could say, okay, your calories for the week are 20,000 or whatever. Do what you want with them. And he's got the skill set to go, well, I don't do much on a Monday, so I'll eat less. I'm going on date night with Gab on a Thursday, so I'm going to put some more calories there. You give a newbie that, they'll eat 8,000 calories on Monday, being like, oh, this is great. And then they'll get to Thursday and be like, I have 6 calories left. Like, I've ruined my week, because you just don't have the skills to be flexible and kind of work within those boundaries. So, someone might even have like a meal template of like, here are your 3 protein options, like pick these. And then as they progress, it's like, cool, like add some other options. What other foods do you like? Protein and calories rather than like strict macros. But it's always good to see. It's great to see someone go through that whole process and kind of get to the stage you are now, where it's like I cringe at the word like intuitive eating, because it's like we're all intuitive, greedy fat fucks. But you get to the point that it's like you can use your intuition and be like, I can maintain and not have to weigh and track everything. I can have a couple drinks and dessert and not track everything and stay within kind of like your margins.
But that's one of the benefits of the program. And to plug this podcast, I learned a lot from listening to you guys since you started this, because you actually make nutrition way more accessible. One of my all-time favorite episodes is when you guys just rip on Gary Brecka, who I think is an absolute fraud con artist.
Yeah.
And, he gets on, shows and whatnot, and they give him a TED Talk, and you guys address this one specifically, all that BS about how your body burns
you're looking at
muscle.
liquefying muscle after like 30 minutes.
But there are people that believe that garbage. And so there's a guy named Nate Silver, who's one of the foremost statisticians. And I used to do political stuff. And so he came out of nowhere with no political background and predicted the outcome of the 2008 election cycle more accurately than any other newspaper, pollster, et cetera, because he just built an algorithm. And he wrote this great book called The Signal and the Noise, which is one I highly recommend anyone read, that just helps you understand how numbers work and what probabilistic versus deterministic essentially is. And that's kind of how I feel about what you guys talk about in the program, is that there's a ton of noise out there, but in data you're always looking for what's the signal, what's the key determining factor, and you guys are the signal in that noise. Because what I've learned from this program is, a calorie is a calorie. It doesn't really fundamentally matter. Now, nutritional content does, and vitamins, all that kind of stuff, but that's actually quite easy to get. It's what is your fundamental relationship with food, with the scale, with the mirror, and you're forced to confront all that, and it ain't fun at first, but once you get used to it, and I realized one of the toughest challenges I had is I'd always had a negative relationship with the scale, and then when I was in the initial fat cut phase, I had this hugely positive relationship with this guy. I couldn't wait to get up and see, and then when I went into my first build, which I wanted to add muscle, I had to reset my mind and realize, like, oh yeah, it's going to go up.
It's no longer
you cannot build muscle without having a calorie surplus, and you're going to put on some fat, and that's just part of the process. Yeah. But even though that is intuitively correct and it makes sense, it's still a shock to the system when you actually have to go through it and you train your mind. And so now I just finished, I guess, my third build? I can't remember what we're on. Yeah. A little prematurely because I got a little elbow issue, but now it doesn't even bother me. Like, the scale's just a number, and it's just a metric, and it's really about what is the overall result of the process look like, and I'm happy with that. And so I don't care about the numbers anymore. They're just a means of knowing if I'm on the right track or not.
It's just a data point, isn't it? It's like how you interpret it is what matters.
It's the way your body works is very like algorithmic, kind of like it's a numbers game, but we have to contend with this, which has feelings and emotions, which just is completely illogical. Yeah. But then it's a nice segue, because I wanted to ask, I think some business mentors or coaches that you have, sometimes it's very transactional. It's like, I'm looking to get this thing from you. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm paying you for a service. I want this thing. But I think when it comes into, because nutrition and training and this stuff, it plays such a key role in like lifestyle. I've not seen many transformations where it's just a transactional relationship. Like, you have to get to know someone on a personal level. And so how important would you say that's been for you guys? Because, I see you guys as best friends, and it's gone from, coach and client to now best buds. And I think that's probably been a crucial part of the success. But I'd love to hear it from your side of like, maybe you had a point where it's like, oh shit, this is so much more than just like macros, and it goes way deeper than that. But I'd love to just hear like the experience of how that kind of relationship has built as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a relationship guy by nature. It's how I do business. It's how I've done kind of everything in my life, and so that comes naturally to me. But this is the first time I've had a relationship with someone in sort of a health standpoint, and the life happens, and there's nothing you can do to control it. So within this program, I just come out of divorce. My father passed away a year ago, 2 weeks ago. And, I've gone through these massive transformations. I had, had some business success, some failure, et cetera. And Ryan was along for the ride in every point of that. And, you part of your fitness journey and part of the success of any of this is you have to keep your coach in the know about what's going on in your life. And so even though that's not something that you probably set out to do, you develop that relationship where you guys know more about your clients' lives than most people in their lives.
Sure.
And particularly for men, as we get older, our social circles really shrink. And Ryan knows probably more about what's happened to me in the last 3 years than any of my other friends. And that's not because they're not good friends. That's because I'm not someone who communicates all the time. But I communicate with Ryan multiple times a week. And I let him know what's going on in my life because it's important for me. He needs to have the information so that he can help me stay locked in and adjust. But when I told him, my father had died of a stroke that he never woke up from, and when I, got the news that he had severe stroke, I just immediately let Ryan know as I let my flight out. And he's like, hey, take the week off, do whatever you need to do, et cetera. And then he checked on me throughout the week, which was really meaningful. But that to me is part of what makes this an enduring process. Is you'll have to drag me kicking and screaming from Ryan being my coach. Like there's absolutely no way I'm leaving him. So
yeah, it's I think you will have some clients where it does feel like more of a transactional kind of process, and the ones where it's not, like coaches get massively emotionally invested in your success with whatever it is, whether it's you go through hardship or business or nutrition and training, injuries. Like I think it's your wins are their wins, and your losses are their losses, where it's like you genuinely feel it. And I think from coaching for the past decade, like you always have these standout clients that you're kind of like that you genuinely love. And it's like, I've had clients where they've invited me to their weddings, afterwards, and I'm like, dude, I'll just give you a 6-pack. But they're like, you don't realize how much of an impact you have on their lives. And it's almost like it makes it worth it, because you obviously have some clients that don't adhere to their plans, and you're kind of just like, man, like I just can't get through to these people. And then you get the ones, that are kind of just like, oh, you changed my life. And it still feels strange to hear that from people.
You feel really good about it then, don't you?
Yeah.
And it's like you often find during these challenges, like obviously you've gone through significant life events, like through our journey together. Most people put their health on the back burner, right? Don't they? So it's like our goal as coaches is I have to gain your trust because I need to know about these things so that we can work through them together. Like I always say, the more of these obstacles that come up as soon as possible, if you were open with me, then we can strategize to overcome them. So then the next time it comes up, we have a strategy in place already. But if you don't open up to the coach, then they can only help with what they know.
It's a very judgment-free zone as well. I think, like to your point as well with friend circles and things. I think there's always like an element of like judgment or fear of like the response or something. Whereas I think a lot of times a coach is like a really unbiased, like they're still very data-driven of like, well, you can tell me the thing, and I'm a soundboard, and I can relay it to you, and and it almost just removes the emotion out of it. And it's like, well, here are the options, and then you can kind of make an informed decision.
Yeah.
But it is a testament also to what you guys have built, because not every coach is going to be like that. And I'd never met anyone like that till I came to Supra and had Ryan. And that, number one, you have to have a good filter of the people you're bringing in to the company.
Sure.
And then that kind of standard, that comes only from the top. And so you guys should take a lot of pride in what you've built. Because I've referred a number of people in the program, not John Smallwood levels, but I'm working on it. But everyone I've referred to the program has had similar results, and they all have a different coach, and they all feel the same way about their coach that I feel about Ryan. So
I love it as well. Like Ryan's from Ebervale, a tiny town in the valleys in Wales. And like you said, you grew up in Texas, and it's just like the world of remote coaching has allowed us to kind of be in a position now where it's like you get to hang out in person. And it's like, if this wasn't a thing, like you guys would have never have met, like would have never, maybe, and depending on what your religion or belief is or whatever. But I love to see it. Like we always have like pinch yourself moments where it's like, what are we doing? It's like we're in Scottsdale, like doing a podcast, like, and we get to hang out with guys like you, and it's just like we grew up like in just
crazy.
absolute dumps.
My parents, like, obviously, I've been doing this now for like 5 years, like working for American companies, and my parents still think it's wild. Like, I told them I was flying out to Arizona, and suddenly they was like, what?
They didn't believe like it's a
Yeah,
thing.
they're like, what, really? And I'm like, Mum, I tell you every year I go out several times, and she still finds it insane.
Well, and there's crazy small world moments. So Coach Jose and I were born 1 month apart in the same
I
hospital.
remember
in
you
Houston.
saying, yeah.
Which, you know,
That's-
we were chit chatting, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm from Houston, and we just started talking. I was like, yeah, I was born in St. Joseph Hospital. He's like, yeah, me too. And then we figured out we were the exact same age and 1 month apart. And it's, you know, the life is funny how it brings you together. But the power of the network, and that's from an elite standpoint. I've not missed an elite event, and you know, you get to a point where could I probably now move forward with the skill set and go it alone? Yeah, probably. I don't want to, because there's a network aspect of being around like-minded people, because being a CEO is a super lonely place. And I stepped aside as CEO of my company 2 years ago, so I still own it, but I had enough about being CEO. It's the worst job in the world. No one ever tells you. You just deal with problems all day. And I don't care about the title. So it made sense for me to step aside. And also I thought we'd kind of hit a ceiling with me. So, and I was right about that. We've grown substantially since I stepped aside. And but you still need a network of people to be in. And I had joined some sort of CEO groups that you just kind of pay to get into. And I realized at one point, I was like, man, I wouldn't trust half these guys to make me a sandwich correctly. Like, why do I want to network with them? And so when I joined Supra and I went to my first elite day where I think there were 10 of us, and I was like, oh, it's in Scottsdale. Came out, it was super cold, and we were sitting outside and kind of going in a round table with John. And
I remember that one.
We were there,
yeah.
And that's when the first people I met were Kirk and John, and they're still my two best friends in the program, and we're thick as thieves every time we do it. But even though we have very disparate business interests and not even necessarily the same approach or mentality around business, et cetera, with everyone in the program, I come away from the elite learning something about business as well as fitness every single time. And this has become one of my most valuable networks just in general, from people I feel like I can talk to if I need to, but also that I would trust their opinion on things because we have a sort of a shared worldview about how we want to perform, how we want to live our lives. And then that's the foundation of trust on which you can now start to trust someone's opinion on something because you have a shared worldview.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So I have two things left. First one is, if you were speaking to someone who was in a similar position to yourself, before joining Supra, is there something that jumps out to you just to kind of push them over the edge? If they're in that spot where, they've been the driver for all of their success, and it's kind of like, if I can do the business side, then I can do the fitness side myself, yet they're still not where they want to be. Like, what would you say to that person?
The first thing that pops into my mind, I'm a big follower of Stoic philosophy, and one of my favorite all-time quotes from one of the fathers of Stoicism, Seneca, is the thing that all fools have in common is that they're always about to start. And I think that's it. And I was guilty of that myself. That's not a judgmental statement. Like, in every other aspect of my life, I don't wait to get started. If I identify a problem that I think that I can solve, then I'll jump into it. And all business is fundamentally, identify the rent. And if you can cut into the rent, there's your profit line, and go. And the only way you can figure out if it's going to work or not is to try it. And so for anyone who's out there that is in a similar position where you're happy in every other aspect of your life, or maybe you're not, because I became a happier, more positive person. I've always been upbeat and very calm and even keel, but I'm in a much better place in my life in a whole lot of respects because of Supra. And so for anyone who's hesitating or sees the ad, because I'll be honest, John's shtick online, that the LFG and go get what you, none of that appeals to me.
Sure.
That's not me at all. But I still joined the program because it was his story that actually appealed to me, where, he was able to make the NFL even though he didn't play football in high school. And it just, he did what it took to achieve the things he wanted to achieve. And there were a lot of setbacks there. And that's life in general. And so anyone that could do that, I'm like, they know what it's like to fail. And I'm struggling with fitness in a way that he probably never has. But, he knows what struggle is. He knows what failure is. So I would imagine that the framework to his program is based on just being able to move past any, inconvenience, any setbacks, et cetera. And so that's what appealed to me. So I think for anyone who's thinking about it, the program works. We live in a very uncertain time, and not to make this political, but it's hard to live now. Things are expensive. The wage stagnation crisis started 50 years ago, and you in the U.S., the American dream is harder to achieve now. You can't just work one job and work a full-time job and necessarily afford to live, and that's a problem. And there are very few things in life that are almost guaranteed to work. And when you find one, that's actually pretty extraordinary. And that's why I still marvel at what's been built in Supra Human. And I'm honored to be a part of it, because there aren't many things like that where if you just show up and you do the process, it will work. And so there's no reason not to do it. You just got to have the will to.
We're going to crop that. It's going to be our next ad.
Next ad.
But the last thing, so we have a new tradition now on the show, and this is the Doc Taylor's grip dynometer. And I think there's a lot of studies that relate grip strength to longevity. So we can just claim that it's evidence based. But it's more an ego thing. And
the benefit here is I don't even know what's good.
Yeah.
So there's no baseline. So maybe it's better I not know what average is.
All you have to do is grab it and squeeze like your life depends on it.
Okay.
Some guys like to stand up and kind of hold it like a deadlift. It's a bit harder if you do it like this. So whatever you feel most comfortable.
I'll do the easier way.
Give it a squeeze.
You're the first client to do it, so you're going to be top of the leaderboard.
And how long do I hold it for?
As hard as you can squeeze and then let go, and then it's gonna stop.
All right.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Let's let it rip. Oh, he's a strong one.
What was it?
58.
58. Hey, it's good.
Solid. So I think anything.
I think you beat Jose.
Anything over 50 is good. Yeah. Jose got about 14. So
Okay. Yeah. As long as I can beat a coach,
you're gonna live a long and successful life. But Tim, thank you so much for jumping on the show.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
It's been a pleasure to see your transformation from the outside, and I've known Ryan for 15 odd years now, and I know for a fact you're if not the or one of like his most favorite clients in transformation. So awesome to see the results that you guys have
Don't
achieved.
tell me I'm the favorite, because then I'll try harder.
Yeah.
I need to win.
But thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
If you love this show, please like, share, and leave us a 5-star review so that we can help more people. I'm John Madsen, reminding you to always go get what's yours.